I never imagined my life would take me to a place like this. After a few bad months and struggling to find steady work, I ended up in Redwood Falls, Minnesota, a small, quiet town where everyone seemed to know everyone else. That's how I stumbled into a job as a janitor at a roadside motel just outside of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to keep me afloat. The place was small, maybe 20 rooms in total, all lined up in a single row. The kind of motel truckers and travelers stop at for one night, then never think about again. Most of my job was routine, cleaning rooms, taking out trash, and fixing little things like leaky faucets or flickering lights. But there was one thing I noticed almost immediately. Room 13. It was almost always locked. I never saw anyone check in or out of it. At first I thought maybe it was used for storage or repairs, but the door looked perfectly normal, no signs of damage, no out-of-order tag. I asked one of the other workers about it once, just casually. He froze for a second, then shrugged it off. "Don't worry about that one, Lip. Focus on the other rooms." Even the owner, a middle-aged guy named Carl, brushed me off when I asked. He just gave me a half smile and changed the subject. It wasn't a big deal at first, just a weird little mystery. But over time, I noticed no one ever went in or out of room 13. The cleaning schedule skipped over it. Guests never got assigned to it. I didn't know it then, but that locked, silent door would end up being the reason I'd quit this job for good. For my first few weeks at the motel, things went smoothly. Redwood Falls was quiet, the work wasn't hard, and I was starting to think maybe I'd finally found a job I could stick with for a while. But every so often, something strange would happen. One night, around 10 p.m., a guest in room 12, that's right next door to room 13, came to the front desk. She looked uneasy. "I don't want to complain," she said, "but I think the people in the next room are moving furniture or something. It sounds like dragging and banging against the walls." I knew immediately she meant room 13. The thing was, room 13 was locked. I hadn't seen anyone check in there, and the key hadn't been touched all week. Still, I grabbed my passkey and went to check. The hallway was silent. I knocked on the door to room 13. Nothing. I unlocked it and stepped inside. The room was spotless. Everything was exactly how an unused room should look. The bed made, curtains drawn, no signs anyone had been there. I stayed a moment longer, just listening. Nothing. No noise from inside, no creaks from the floorboards. I left, locked the door behind me, and told the guest everything was fine. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't press me. It wasn't the last time I'd hear about noises from that room. And every time I'd go to check, and every time, it would be empty. After a few more weeks, I'd heard at least 3 different complaints from guests staying near room 13. Always the same thing. Strange noises at night. Sometimes it was footsteps. Sometimes it was knocking. A couple once swore they heard someone talking in there. Each time I went to check, the room was locked and empty. By this point, I'd stopped asking Carl, the owner, about it. He had a way of dodging questions that made it clear he didn't want to talk. But one evening, while I was restocking supplies, Mark, one of the older janitors, came over. He had that look people get when they've been holding something in for too long. "Lip, there's a reason no one stays in that room," he said quietly, glancing toward the hallway. "About a year ago, a man was killed in there. It was bad. Cops came, place was taped off. They cleaned it up, but..." He hesitated. "People talk. Around here, word gets around fast. No one wants to rent it. Locals know the story, travelers don't, but Carl doesn't exactly offer it to anyone unless he has no choice." That explained a lot. I didn't believe in ghosts, not really. But there was something about the way everyone avoided talking about room 13 that unsettled me. And those noises, even if it was just creaky plumbing or thin walls, there was something about that room that made my stomach twist whenever I passed it. A few nights later, I was finishing up some cleaning when the phone at the front desk rang. It was a man staying in room 14, just on the other side of room 13. He sounded frustrated. "Look, I don't want to cause a problem, but whoever's in the room next to me won't stop pacing. It's been going on for an hour. It's almost midnight." I glanced at the logbook. Room 13 was, as always, empty. I grabbed the passkey and walked down the hall. The carpet was worn and silent under my steps, but as I approached room 13, I thought I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy steps across the floor inside, back and forth. I froze outside the door, listening. The sound stopped. I knocked. No answer. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was still. The bed was made. The air smelled faintly of cleaning supplies. I checked the bathroom. Empty. The closet. Empty. I even stood in the center of the room for a full minute, just listening. Nothing. I left, locked the door, and told the guest there was no one inside. But as I walked back down the hall, I had that same tight feeling in my chest. It wasn't just that the room was empty. It was that every time I went to check, it felt like I was arriving just after something had stopped. It was my last week at the motel, though I didn't know it yet. That night was quiet. Only a few rooms were occupied. I was outside near the dumpster taking out the trash when I glanced up at the row of windows. That's when I saw it. Room 13. The curtains were half open, and standing on the far side of the room was a figure. Tall, dark, still. It wasn't just a shadow. It was shaped like a person, standing perfectly still, facing the window. I froze. My stomach dropped. It felt like the thing, whatever it was looking straight at me. I stumbled backward, tripped over a trash bag, and hit the ground. When I scrambled back to my feet and looked again, the window was empty. My heart was pounding. I went back inside, trying to calm down. That's when the phone rang again. It was a guest on the first floor, directly below room 13. "Can someone please tell whoever's in the room above me to stop walking so loudly? It sounds like heavy boots." I didn't go. I couldn't. I stayed at the desk until sunrise, not going anywhere near that hallway. When Carl, the owner, came in that morning, I told him I was done. I didn't make excuses. I just said, I quit. Carl didn't ask why. He just nodded slowly and said, "Yes, I understand." I walked out and never looked back. I haven't worked in a motel since,